Marcus Williams, number 24 from Ironton, Ohio.
All right, now I'm from Ironton, Ohio too. No one knows that, but I try and tell them whenever they listen. But how did you get to the point where you said, I'm from Ironton, Ohio, I want to go to Ohio State? Or is it I'm from Ironton, Ohio, and Ohio State wants me? What's that feeling like?
Well, for me, it was a little bit of a different journey. Now, my family were all diehard Buckeye fans, so I think they were trying to send all the Buckeye vibes they could my way when I was a young one growing up, playing and starting down that pathway. They certainly had aspirations that I would go there. Once I started getting into high school and the whole recruiting process started, it really looked like the tea leaves were pointing me in the direction of the likes of like Cincinnati, Marshall, Northern Illinois, West Virginia. Those schools were all intrigued in me. And we had several interactions going into my junior year. And really it came to the beginning of my junior year season. I had a showcase game where I had a bunch of schools there. And honestly, it was probably the worst game of my high school career. It was trash. And from that point, from a recruiting standpoint, a lot of the people just went silent on me. I did a couple visits to Cincinnati. My heart was set on Cincinnati. I thought that was going to be my spot. And then after that game and coaches stopped contacting me and reached out a couple times, I really became disenfranchised from the whole process. I was frustrated, and at that point in time started thinking about the prospect of just not playing football in college. It was like, you know what, this is, I can't, if I'm already starting to see the politics and things right now, like if you don't really have any margin for error, like I don't know if that's something I want to be a part of.
Right.
So in doing that, started just looking academically, and that's when OSU really first came onto my radar. Prior to that, there was nothing. I didn't really think that was going to be feasible, just based on conversations I was having with recruiters and whatnot. So my high school coaches did have some connections with Ohio State, and they'd even asked me prior to, they say, hey, do you want us to reach out to see about what like the walk-on process would look like, maybe to be a preferred walk-on? And I was like, nah. I was like, I'm good, man. I think I'm just going to go the academic route. So long story short, ended up going to OSU, got an academic scholarship, and was really set to just go there as a student, and that kind of be the end of my football career. Then when I got up there, went to the first couple games, I just remember sitting in the stands and watching, and it was specifically they played Texas in '05, and I was there, and the atmosphere was crazy, and I'm just watching, and something just inside me said, man, you need to be down there. You can play with these guys. You need to be out there. So after that, just kind of set on that, and it still never really took any action. And it was a buddy of mine that was from the same area. He actually went to Willersburg. He's talking about trying to walk on to the team and wanted to know if I would just train with him. So I said, sure, man, I'll go and I'll train with you, kind of push you a little bit. So we started that journey late fall into the winter. And then when we left for school after winter quarter, went on our break, he decided to transfer to OU and was going to go do his thing there. So then at that point, I kind of got the bug. So I just was like, you know what, when I get back to school, I'm going to call him and see what this walk-on process is all about.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take you a step back from that.
Yeah.
And then that'll lead you to that. All right. Now, you were playing in a tournament game in Columbus. Yeah. I think it was your senior year, right? Now, my father and I were in Mansfield, came down to Ohio, down to Columbus to see you play. And if not, 3/4 of Ironton were there. And it was like the tailgate atmosphere and the whole thing. And I said to him at that time, it's like, if he goes to school, he's got to go here because half the town's here. And it's like, you got people following you from all over the place. So this is going to be perfect. And then, a couple years later, there you are. I'm like, this is great. This is what I saw. I'm like, he's got to show up here because, everyone on the team plays. So you get to that point, you decide, okay, I'm going to walk on. How does that go on over with your family and the rest of Ironton?
They were elated. I think majority of them were elated. My uncle David, he was probably the most pragmatic of the group. So he was really like, you should think about that. That's going to be it's going to be a tough battle, tough journey. He's like, you got to understand that not only do you have to be much better than the people you're going to get up against, you got to be much better than them consistently, because anytime that I'm succeeding, I'm essentially proving that someone along the pathway made a mistake in their decision-making process.
Right.
You got to understand there's a lot of pride involved with that, and it's going to be tough. But I said, you know what? At this point, there's nothing to lose by doing it other than just kind of going back to being a normal student. So I was fully committed in that. So what was crazy, when I called them and asked them about the process, I called them on a Monday, and they literally like, yeah, we do like open tryouts. We started on Wednesday. So I had 2 days. I thought I was going to have like 2 months to kind of get my mind right, get ready. I have 2 days to go in there, and it was really just informal on that Wednesday, kind of tell us about the process, and then come back later on that Friday and do like an open tryout. I had like borrowing cleats from some of my dorm mates, like coming in, just like piecemealing it together, man. It was quite the spectacle. And from a tryout standpoint, I mean, I did all right. Like, I wouldn't leave there thinking like, man, I killed it. But I definitely showed them my grittiness and my toughness. And I think that's what really resonated with them. And then a couple of days later, they post the folks that made it of there. It was like between 100 and 125 people that tried out, and they brought in 8 people from there to kind of go through winter conditioning.
Right.
So at that point, man, it was really just, that was history, and the rest is just crazy how it unfolded. But that's how it came to be, was that process.
And so now you're there. And this is the question. The answer I get to this question varies from person to person, but it's always, when did you know that you belong? And the answer I get from a lot of people is like, it just happened one day. One day I'm like, okay, I went from being, I'm not sure, I don't know what I got here, and when they recruited, whatever, I thought I was going to get there, but then I show up and I got Eddie George, and I got this guy, and I got that guy, and my position guys are all going to the NFL. I don't know. And then one day it's like, I'm supposed to be here. When did that day show up and you went, yeah, this is right?
Yeah, man, I can still distinctly remember that. I know when I first got there, and you're just looking around and you're not familiar with people, and I felt like Space Jams. I'm looking like, man, these are like the Monstars. Everyone just felt 5 times bigger than what they really were. I was like, geez. But when we get out there, it's fall camp. And prior to that, I really hadn't got a lot of opportunities to be on the field, just kind of standing around, learning, not getting a chance to really show myself, and got out there in a little jersey scrimmage in the fall and just got an opportunity to cut loose. And I just remember I was back at that point. I was still playing safety, and I was back covering the middle deep third, and it came through a little seam route to the tight end, and I just came in and just hit him right in the chin and broke it up. And at that point I said, oh yeah, like, this is just like riding a bike, baby. Like, I can do this here. Let's go. And then from there, just really that confidence is so crucial. And at that point, you just go out there and try to keep reproducing that feeling and keep going.
And so now that you're in the middle of that, you're like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Where's the future look at there at that point?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was really about my first and foremost goal was to get on that travel squad, because they take 70 guys, and I knew that was going to be the first step in kind of making this thing feel real. So I was like, all right, what do I need to do to get there? And what was crazy, so I came in as a safety, and that's where I had all my accolades in high school. That's where I was getting recruited, was as a safety. But then at OSU, they asked me, before we went into the first fall camp, they said, hey, we want to take you to camp, but we need you to play running back, because we just need some bodies to run scout team. They didn't even really know I'd played running back in high school.
Right.
I was like, I'll do whatever. So, but that was the biggest blessing, because by doing that, it gave me the opportunity to get the ball in my hands all the time. I was going up against the first team defense, and it just showed what I could do from an athletic standpoint against some of the best. And then that gave them some trust in me to then get me on some of these special teams.
Right.
And then once I was on special teams and started to show out, I was blocking a punt about every other week. And then they're like, hey, man, this guy has some potential. So then from there, I was like, all right, what do I have to do to get on the travel squad? And they're like, you're either a starter or a backup. And I said, well, let's do this. And it took me till the end of my first season to get that. It was game 11 of my first season, which is really unprecedented for even any freshman, let alone a walk-on that had no ties to team to come in and by the end of the year be on the travel squad, and then by the national championship game to be starting on special teams. Like that was like, all right.
All right, so now you're at that point, like, okay, I belong. I'm supposed to be here. Now, how does it feel walking across campus and people are like, didn't I see you play on Saturday?
It's surreal, man. It's one of those things. It's still to this day, like people come up and acknowledge. I mean, we're going on a decade since I played. It's just wild, the fact like it doesn't feel real at all. You go into places and then people ask like, hey, like, I'm like, yep. It's just it's nuts. It never gets old. I'll tell you that.
And it's something where, you know, because I end up walking around. I went into class. My class was the class before William White's class, right? Mm-hmm. And my roommate was in that class. And I'm walking out of the door, and I walk in and go, I just saw him on the football field like 3 hours ago. What's he doing in class? You know, so that was always pretty cool, you know, just to see, you know, you're just a regular student, but you're not just a regular student.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's humbling that, you know, when people do that. But for me, it was always a great responsibility to show that, yeah, like I'm still showing up to class, still putting in the work in the classroom, just as I'm putting in the work in the weight room or in the film room. You know, it's trying to be that total package.
All right. So we get to the point where you said, okay, I put in a career, I'm almost done. And you get to senior tackle, that last day or that last, you know it's coming to an end. What does that day feel like?
It was a lot of mixed emotions, man. It had went by. It's one of those things, is like you work so hard to get there and then it goes by so fast. And then at that point you start looking back and thinking all the things that I could have and should have did differently, you know, right, to really optimize it. Even though you probably really couldn't have did anything because you worked as hard as you could. It just at that point, man, it's like first you appreciate the fact that, man, this is real, this really happened. And then you're like, man, what could have been. And for me in particular, where I tore my ACL a quarter of the way through my senior year, like it really didn't end the way that I envisioned it ending. Like everything was trending towards something much grander in my mind, but then to tear it ends where I'm injured and I basically have to limp up to do this senior tackle, and just knowing that at that point football, the way I envisioned it, was going to be over for me and I was going to start trending down this professional route. Was, again, it was something that took some time to kind of come to grips with, but as we know, all these things work out for a reason, and at that point it's just trying to appreciate the moment.
And that's, you know, the thing I get from everybody is like, okay, what I thought was going to be an ending ended up becoming a beginning. So now that you're like, all right, now I'm a normal, quote unquote, normal person, how am I going to carry this OSU experience to the next level? Mm-hmm. So when you get out, you're like, okay, now I got to go into the real world. What do I do?
So for me, that process was a little delayed because I had actually started graduate school. So I graduated undergrad a year early. So I was starting graduate school that last year of my competitive career. So I was still transitioning into grad school to become a physical therapist. So it was just able to I still was able to maintain the rhythm that I had leading up to it, just without the rigor of athletics. So it allowed me to take that and kind of fold it into my new normal and really create a schedule that set me apart and allowed me to be an elite student and not just a student athlete. And then just with each new phase of my career, you hold on to some of those intangibles that you learn through the sport, and just how to handle adversity, how to be able to manage tight schedule with a bunch of competing interests. And yeah, you truly just realize, wow, like all those little intangible pieces I learned along the way, they're starting to really reap their benefits right now. And it's just amazing how all that unfolds.
And so what I know as a normal student is, you know, time management is very important, but as a kid, you're not really taught that, you know, and as a high school kid, you're not really taught that. Here's the book, here's the class, go do whatever you have to do. And what I found, especially from the football players, like once I got out into the real world, you know, whether I got to take the kids here, whether I have to do that there, I'm able to compartmentalize what I have to do because I had to do that as a student athlete.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you just knew the responsibilities you had and the outcomes that were expected. And at that point, you just had to figure out how you could get it done and either meet or exceed expectations consistently. And just the process of doing that molds you into something that you don't even realize you are until you get put in a situation with quote unquote normal person that hasn't had to go through that. And you're like, wow, like I'm truly equipped to thrive in almost any situation.
And I think that people don't understand that that's what you go to school for. And I think that they think you're going to school to play football. No, you're going to school to get a step ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So now that you are a regular person, so to speak, when the game comes on Saturday, what goes through your head?
A lot of nostalgia, man, every time. And just especially towards the beginning of the season when you just go back to and you remember your first couple falls when you were there and the rituals and the routines that I would go through on game day and just imagining kind of what the players are thinking. And then just at this point, man, I love to just appreciate the hard work that I know those guys put in when they're out there, and just to see them executing at such a high level and really loving their craft and honing it every week, man. It's an opportunity to, once again, just appreciate the fact that I was able to be a part of that, and then also appreciate what it is now and the work that those folks are putting in, man. It's just always good vibes.
And do you bring a little something to the rest of the people that are watching the game, the other fans, the families? Like, okay, now I'm a fan. Like, no, I was out there. I know what's going on. Let me tell you what's happening.
Yeah, I still they'll ask me to kind of break down some of the schemes or strategies that may be unfolding out there, just to give them a little bit of a different perspective on what's going on. I still try to, because a lot of times as a fan you may get frustrated with something you see or not understand what's happening, but you can say, no, that really wasn't that guy's fault. There was just a communication error between the two, or it was just a bad it was a bad play call or whatnot. It's not always what it appears to be on its surface. So try to give them a little bit of behind the scenes just to help keep that perspective.
It's not always as black and white as it seems, but since you know that, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, moving forward, you said the kids are with mom right now. Are the kids going to be Buckeye fans?
Oh, absolutely, man. That's my daughter is just a little bit over a year and a half, and her favorite word is Buckeye. And my son is just now, he's a little bit over 4, and he's just now getting to understand, like, Daddy played for a Buckeye, Daddy's a Buckeye. So we'll see, like, anytime we would see a sport on TV, he'd be like, oh, Daddy, you out there, Buckeye? I'm like, no, Daddy hasn't played in a while. They're certainly going to be diehard Buckeye fans, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing the story. I appreciate you sharing your time. I'm out here in Vegas repping Ironton, so I'm doing what I can. You tell everybody I said hello and enjoy your day.
Absolutely, man. You do the same.
All right. Thank you.